let's say you're in a situation and you have to use your firearm, and you either you shoot it, and maybe the person is just injured, or maybe they're dead, or whatever. What happens? I mean, what happens? Because that's a whole different scenario. Like, you've gone to a whole different level of interaction in terms of your firearm, and also interaction with the authorities and things like that. So what happens in that case?
At that point in time, again, the scenarios, there's a million different scenarios that could happen. The location, how many people you've shot, if you've been shot, so forth and so on. But let's just say you shot the guy, he's down on the ground and he's in a growing pool of blood. Okay, the first thing you need to do is dial 911. You have to dial 911. Even if you know somebody else has dialed 911, you have to make that call, because from here on out, you have to start proving your innocence. All the opposing attorney, if you find yourself in a lawsuit, has to prove is that you killed him. You have to prove that you shot him because you were in fear of death or grave bodily injury. And with your 911 call, that process begins.
Welcome to Old Guy Talks to Me, a podcast dedicated to helping guys create kick-ass lives for themselves and those that they love. Ladies, if you want to know what your guy is thinking, this podcast is for women too. Each week, a special guest helps you create that life you've imagined. We talk anti-aging medicine, personal growth, relationships and hot sex. Yeah, you hear me, getting laid more frequently. Other guy vices, and topics that many don't want to talk about but need to. Just because you're getting older doesn't mean you have to be old. Don't want to miss anything? Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review this podcast. And be sure to go to www.thestandard.academy/magazine and grab a free copy of our new digital magazine, The Standard Academy, where we talk about erogenous zones, growing hair back, and other things that will help you create that kick-ass life. Now get ready to listen up and share with friends.
This is Orts, the official old guy from oldguytalkstome.com, a podcast dedicated to helping older guys create, well, guys, not older guys. I need to change that up. Helping guys create kick-ass lives for themselves and those that they love. And part of it, well, sometimes you got to be able to take care of business. And sometimes that means self-defense. And we've had some people talk about self-defense, mixed martial arts and things like that. But also sometimes, you got to have a weapon. You got to have a weapon, because you don't want to be dealing with an intruder in your house holding a broom. It's not particularly not effective, especially if that intruder is a shitload bigger than you are. So that can't be a good here. And so today's guest is Ed McSwain, and I had the opportunity to have a couple of classes with him on his concealed carry permit class, concealed carry weapon class, and he's been doing this for a number of years. And I will tell you, it was a fantastic experience. First time I did it with my wife. Second time I did it with my daughter, and she's not particularly big firearm activist, but she certainly got an appreciation of firearms after spending a day out on the range with Ed, and it was highly informative. And the only thing that was good was I was a faster draw than my daughter, which surprised the hell out of me, because my daughter's very quick. So Ed, welcome to Old Guy Talks to Me.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Yeah. So Ed, you've been doing this. How long have you been doing? You've been doing concealed carry weapon trainings?
About 8 years.
About 8 years. And yes, what led you into doing those?
Actually, I kind of just progressed into it. I grew up with firearms. My father was a hunter, and I was a hunter, and I knew how to use every weapon system to harvest game. And then I would carry a gun or two in my vehicle, and I had a traffic altercation, and a gun was presented to me, so I grabbed my firearm, and I realized at that moment that I did not know how to use that firearm as a defensive tool. I knew how to use it for harvesting game, but not as a defensive tool. So I sought training, and I enjoyed the training, and I sought more and more and more, and became an instructor for one of the ranges close to Vegas. And then I had the opportunity to help start an indoor shooting range in Vegas. And with that, they needed somebody to do the CCW classes. So I had the most experience out of my partners. So I went and got the ability, if you will, through the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association to administer a CCW class, and therefore certify people for the CCW permit. And that's kind of how I got into it.
So what percentage of people, and generally, do you think that have a firearm actually go through the whole permitting process? Because I mean, in some states you don't have to have any permits, but in some states, what percentage do you think actually go through the whole process?
I don't know the percentage, but I would say it's a very few of them. It's a small percentage. Right now, there's 200,000 CCW permits issued in Nevada. The population of Nevada is probably what, 3 million, something around there. So 200,000 out of 3 million. I give everyone in my neighborhood a free class, and I have 620 houses in my neighborhood. I don't know how many adults are in my neighborhood, but only 20 have taken me up on the offer.
Oh, really? Okay, that's kind of
Yeah.
interesting, because your classes are, well, that's, people don't normally do it until it's too late, and that's generally tends to be true with a lot of things. What is the misconception? What would you say is the greatest misconception that people have about people that have CCW permits, and what do you think it is? Because I know I've had some relatives that have some reactions to that, but it's pretty funny.
I think a lot of the people just really don't understand firearms. They think that the firearm just kills or shoots other people all on its own. And a lot of them have never been exposed to the proper way to handle a firearm, as simple as loading and unloading the firearm. There's a proper way to do everything, and there's a proper way to load and unload to be safe. And it's amazing to me that how many people are not safe with the gun. They assume that it's empty, and they handle the gun. They muzzle everything. They muzzle themselves. They muzzle other people, and they don't even check to see if the gun is loaded when they pick it up. It's astonishing to me.
Yeah, when you say muzzle, sometimes I think that some people might be thinking like you put your hand over somebody's mouth. But what do you mean by muzzling someone?
Yeah, fair enough. You point the gun at the other person, or at your hand, or at your own self by turning the gun around. I show a video in my class of a man looking down the barrel of a shotgun, and then the shotgun goes off.
Is he a survivor or not?
He's a survivor. Yes, he was fortunate that when the firearm went off, it actually the gun kicked and forced the muzzle out just a little bit, and it shot the bill of his ball cap, shot a hole right through the bill of his ball cap.
A Darwin moment.
Yeah, almost. Almost. Missed it by that much.
He's still part of the herd, though.
Yes, he is.
I bet he probably still would do that. So yeah, I think there's a lot of misconception about firearms, especially, and get into this a little bit because it's in the news. One of my least favorite actors, but he's actually a good actor. He's just one of my least favorite human beings. Alec Baldwin, who basically said that the firearm set it off itself. What's the possibility of that happening?
Well, he had a single action revolver, and it's impossible. It's impossible. And I believe that the FBI tested that firearm, that the one that he discharged, and found that it was impossible for that gun to release the hammer without pressing the trigger.
Yeah, so basically the hammer had to be cocked and you have to press the trigger in order to release it, or you can press the trigger and it cocks automatically, as that saying, and then it releases. Is that
Correct.
okay? Yeah. So obviously he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah.
So,
Again, there's a person that took the person that took a gun and didn't check to see if it was unloaded or loaded or unloaded. He took the word of somebody. Apparently, he took the word of somebody that said the gun was unloaded. But still, a responsible person handling a firearm, any firearm, should check to see the condition of that firearm before he starts to really manipulate it, use it, or whatever.
yeah, because I think when you see one of the safest places I ever felt was with my daughter, my oldest daughter, who used to shoot a shotgun competitively on a high school team, and it was all about gun safety out there.
Yeah.
Actually, when you look at the sports that are least dangerous, there was a list, and actually playing pool was more dangerous than shooting shotguns in high school. Believe
Wow.
it or not. Yeah.
Well, you talk about shooting guns in high school. When I was in junior high in Southern California, the junior high school had a shooting range in the basement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure that's been converted now to something else.
It's storage room.
Storage room or
Yeah.
or some sort of studies program.
Right.
we won't go down that route, at least not in this program. So Ed, what are the reasons why people would come and take your class? Because there's several reasons, or let me go phrase that back. Why would people go out and buy a firearm?
I think lately, in the last 3 years, the majority of people that have gone through my class, I ask them, "Why are you here?" And they tell me, most of them say that they're afraid of the way crime is escalating and that they feel society is falling apart. I got a lot of people during the Black Lives Matter movement, the Antifa stuff that was going on all over the United States. More and more people came in to my class just wanting to know how to handle a firearm and wanting the CCW. A lot of people, the state requires me to give 8 hours of lecture and a 30-shot shooting test. And in my opinion, that's not enough to teach anyone how to use a firearm if they've never shot one before, or if they've shot one, but really don't know how to use one. So my class is different. I spend about 7 hours, 8 hours in the field shooting at the range, and 5 hours of lecture in a classroom setting, and the other 3 hours are involved in the range time. But most of the people are, I would say, are afraid of society, the way society is going right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think see crime is rampant.
Yes.
I suspect it's going to get a lot worse. And it's no longer confined to quote unquote bad neighborhoods. It's really everywhere. And so it's an unfortunate thing, but especially the older you are, the more vulnerable you are to things like that.
Yeah, women and the elderly are the most sought after victims because they're the weakest.
Sure, they're easy prey. I imagine a lot of women get a firearm also if they have an abusive spouse. Would that be true?
I haven't had anyone tell me that, but I'm sure that has happened, especially after the breakup. The man might say something like, "If I can't have you, nobody will have you," and then that scares the women. But I've never had one tell me that.
So when getting a firearm, what kind of things do you tell people if they're like to choose their own firearm? What do you suggest for them?
Mainly the women, because of their strength issue and their hands isn't as strong as most men. But I tell them when they go out to pick up a firearm, to purchase a firearm, they have to be able to run the slide and lock it back, because there's several malfunctions that they will have to that they will have to clear but they will have to manipulate that firearm by sliding that the slide rearward and then locking it back. And if they can't do that, that is not the gun for them. Then also fit, and then everybody wants to know about what size caliber and all that. I had a 62-year-old woman show up at my one of my classes with a Kimber 45, and she outshot her son that had a little 9mm. So caliber's not a huge problem. The kick of the 45, as opposed to the kick of the recoil, I should say, of a 9mm. Definitely the 9mm is less, but my son once told me, he goes, the 9mm in your 40 might expand, but my 45 will never shrink. And it's actually the diameter of the bullet that does the damage.
Uh-huh.
So they should be able to get any gun, but what they shouldn't do, in my opinion, is get anything smaller than a 9mm. A 380 is a 9mm short. It doesn't have the power to penetrate deep. So I would suggest not getting anything smaller than a 9mm. Unless you have a backup gun, then you can get something smaller than the 9mm.
Sure. So there's a lot of choices out there, and if you are in the market for something like that, where's the best place? Do you buy them privately? Do you buy them as a gun store, or what's the deal on that?
Well, you can buy them both places, privately or in the gun store. If you buy it privately, if I were to buy a gun from you, the law requires you and I to go down to an FFL, somebody who has an FFL, and most gun stores, all gun stores have them. And we would go in there and do a transfer. So they would do a background check on me if I'm buying it from you. And once we got the okay, then you could give me the gun, I give you the cash, and then we walk away. But that's also it's not just on a sale, it's on the transfer of possession. So if we're neighbors and I want to borrow one of your shotguns to go trap shooting, we would have to go down to a gun store, do a background check. You give me the gun, I go use it. When I come back, we have to go back down to the gun store again and do another transfer and do another background check for me to give you your gun back. That's a law that was put into place about 8 years ago.
Yeah. So
6 years ago. Sorry, 6.
Let's talk about that. You can go into a store and purchase a firearm or purchase it over the internet without any background check.
You can't, and you can't do it at the gun show. I always hear this gun show loophole. I don't know what a gun show loophole is. Anytime you go into a gun show to buy a firearm, you have to do a background check. Anytime you go into a gun store and buy a firearm, you have to do a background check. And if you buy off the internet, the company you're buying it from asks you what gun store you want the gun sent to. So the gun is then sent to that gun store and they do a background check on you. Now, I'm sure there's people out there that will mail a gun to you, put it in pieces in a box and send it UPS or whatever. But that's probably far and few in between.
Right. So that's people that say that don't really know what they're talking about in terms of.
Yeah, they have no idea. Every time I ask somebody, when they say, well, there's the gun show loophole, I say, what is the gun show loophole? I probably asked 30 people that, and not one of them knows what the gun show loophole is, because it does not exist.
Yeah, and you're just attended one of the biggest gun shows in the United States, the SHOT Tournament in Las Vegas, and I'm sure that they have a lot of background checks going on back there.
Well, they actually don't sell guns there, and
they don't. Okay.
No, you can't buy anything from the SHOT Show at the SHOT Show because they're not set up to do business. They don't have business licenses, therefore they can't collect sales tax and things of that sort. And I know at one time, I don't know if they still do, but at one time, the manufacturers or the people sending the firearms to the SHOT Show had to take the firing mechanism out, had to take the firing pin out or the striker. And then they were checked. Metro had somebody down there checking every single gun to make sure the firing pin or the striker was removed.
Do you need accountability? Are you looking to change the course of your life but have failed to keep on track? Too often we take in information and fail to act. Do you need an accountability program to stay the course? Then go to www.thestandard.academy and find out about my accountability program that goes with my course that helps you find out what you want, why you want it, and how to get it. The accountability program keeps you on track to get results.
Okay. So let's say that you're in a situation and hopefully most people never encounter this. Let's say you're in a situation and you have to use your firearm and you either you shoot it and maybe the person is just injured or maybe they're dead or whatever. What happens? I mean, what happens? Because that's a whole different scenario. Like, you've gone to a whole different level of interaction in terms of your firearm and also interaction with the authorities and things like that. So what happens in that case?
At that point in time, again, the scenarios, there's a million different scenarios that could happen. The location, how many people you shot, if you've been shot, so forth and so on. But let's just say you shot the guy, he's down on the ground and he's in a growing pool of blood. Okay, the first thing you need to do is dial 911. You have to dial 911. Even if you know somebody else has dialed 911, you have to make that call, because from here on out, you have to start proving your innocence. All the opposing attorney, if you find yourself in a lawsuit, has to prove is that you killed him. You have to prove that you shot him because you were in fear of death or grave bodily injury. And you with your 911 call, that process begins. So you tell the operator everything that happened, but you have to get certain things out. And in my class, I teach them the first thing you do is tell them where you are, because if something happens to you, you have to re-engage this person, or you have to re-engage or engage his buddies, and or the phone goes dead, or you drop it. The police at least know where you're at, and the cavalry is coming. Then you need to tell them that you just shot a man or woman, whatever, that tried to kill you. Okay, that shows that at that moment in time you felt like your life was in danger, that man was trying to kill you, and tell them with what type of a weapon. Was it a sword? It was a baseball bat, another firearm. And then you tell them, please send the police. Or please send an ambulance. That shows compassion. Then say, please send the police. That shows innocence again. And then say, if he survives, I want to press charges for attempted murder. Again, that shows innocence, showing that you thought you were going to be murdered at that point in time, because you want this 911 call to be played in front of the jury. And the reason for that is the opposing attorney is going to try to say that you've been coached, you've been told what to say and when to say it and how to say it to make them believe that you were afraid of your life. But if the first thing that you did after the gunfight was to call 911 and tell them how you felt, then that option for the opposing attorney goes away, because they will hear exactly how you felt at the moment of that gunfight. Then after that, tell them what you're wearing, tell them who you are and what you're wearing, and stay on the phone with the operator until she disconnects the call. Then you've got to be careful when the police show up, because they're going to jump out with their guns pointed at you and at the other guy if he's still alive. And then there's a whole series of things that's going to happen to you. In my class, I go through every one of them. And then it extends further than that. It goes to how do you select an attorney? You're going to need an attorney, and you should do that even before you ever get in type of any gunfight. You're going to have to have your attorney talk to the police and talk to the DA, all that. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Sure. Okay, so you mentioned finding an attorney. Obviously, you don't want someone that does wills and trusts.
That's correct.
Yeah, that would not be your first call. That would be about as good as calling your accountant at that point. How do people find somebody who's really good at this? Because that's always a challenge. I mean, in anything that you're trying to do, be physicians, be dentists, or whatever, it's always finding like, okay, how do I find someone who's actually knowledgeable in this particular area? And so how would you suggest people might approach that?
Well, if you have an attorney already set up for your that you use for your trust or your business or whatever, you can ask them to refer somebody. But what I tell my students is find out who the attorney is that represents the policeman's union, because that person or persons, that law firm knows this end of the law, and they know it very well, and they can get to the DA because they're very close to the DA. They can get past the gatekeeper, and they can possibly, if need be, talk the DA out of pressing charges against you. And if you get a hold of that person and you ask them if you can retain them, and they say yes, then good. If they say no, then ask them who they would suggest, because they know other people that deal in this end of the law. But definitely, you don't want the will and trust guy. You don't want some of these guys that are on TV all the time trying to get you to hire them if you sprained an ankle at somebody's property or something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's always it's one of those things that your life changes forever when that happens.
It certainly does. It certainly does.
And it's not to be taken lightly. And I think having a firearm is actually a significant responsibility because you hear so many, you hear a lot of accidents happen because people are irresponsible with their firearms.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that happened to me. I went down and got my CCW and got into a traffic altercation and didn't draw my gun out on the guy, but I loaded it. I used to carry it without anything without a round in the chamber. I no longer do that, but I realized at that moment that I didn't know how to use that gun as a defensive tool. So I sought training. It is a huge responsibility. You're responsible for every cartridge that goes out of that, or every bullet that goes out of that muzzle. If it over penetrates the bad guy and goes into somebody behind him, you're in trouble there because you're responsible for that bullet. If somebody steps in front of you, between you and the bad guy, and you shoot and you hit that person, you're responsible for that bullet. And you can be brought up on anything from manslaughter to reckless endangerment, all kinds of stuff. So you have to be very, very careful. And that's why you need training, so that you don't miss and you don't shoot at the wrong time, and you know when you're allowed to.
Yeah. Have you ever had anyone in your class, or had anyone that wanted to come to your class that you said no?
No, I had somebody in my class that after I started it, I said no. And what I did was, and what triggered that, he was saying that if a guy's in my house, I'm shooting him. And I said, no, you got to find out why he's in your house. If he's in my house and my kid's in that house, I'm shooting him. I said, no, he might be drunk. He came into the wrong house. He might be there to steal the TV. So what? You'll get a new one. I'm shooting him. So I finished the class with him. And then I wrote a letter to the sheriffs, and there's an avenue that you can take. And I said that I gave this guy the certificate, but I suggest you not give him the training. I did not kick him out of the class because I was concerned for the safety of the other people in the class. So I don't know what happened. The police never got back to me, the sheriffs, nothing. So that was the only one, but I've never had anyone that I've declined. I don't know if I've had anyone in my class that wasn't supposed to have guns. The police will do the background check on that. The FBI actually does it. So, yeah.
Yeah. So if you had to give a little bit of advice to someone who's interested in getting a firearm, and you gave some advice on selecting the size or the particular type of firearm, but what other things would you suggest for someone who is considering purchasing a firearm? What things would you say?
Well, I have a lot of people that they say they want to take the class, but they have to go get a gun first. And I suggest to them that they take my class first. I will give them a gun to use, and then they can see other firearms in the class and how they operate and how they're manipulated. And they'll get a better idea of what gun is best suited for them. Because, there's guns like, or handguns like the Glock that all you do is press the trigger and it goes off. There's other handguns that you have to manipulate a decocker or an external safety before you can press the trigger. So, and there's arguments for having one or the other. If you don't have children or grandchildren running around the house, then maybe you don't need an external safety or something on the outside of the firearm to defeat before the trigger can be pressed. But if you have a lot of children or grandchildren running around the house, you might strongly consider something just another thing that child has to defeat if they happen to get a hold of that gun.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Well, that's very interesting. And so, you're in Las Vegas, but what should people look for if they're looking for someone that has a concealed carry weapons class? What things do you say, like, okay, these are good, and this is things you definitely want, and these are things, if they're doing it, they're probably not doing a great job.
Well, I'll tell you my experiences. I've had a concealed carry permit since I was 22, and I'm 63 now. And so I've taken the class, I think 7 or 8 times, because it expires. I can give you a certificate, but I can't give myself a certificate. So I have to go get a class. The last class I took, when I showed up, the first thing they had us do was shoot. And it's a 30-shot shooting test at 3 different distances. And I was thinking to myself, what if somebody that never shot before had a situation and got scared, and they went down and bought a gun and they wanted to get trained? So they come in here, the first thing they make them do is shoot, and they have no idea how to shoot. They probably don't even know how to load the magazine. So I think that you need to find a class that actually gives you real world training. And you're not going to, my opinion, you're not going to get real world training with a firearm with 30 shots at 3 different distances inside of a static range. So find somebody that does more than that. The lecture is important. They should go through the law. They should go through how to de-escalate a bad situation, how to keep from getting into a bad situation in the first place, and quite a few other things. My class does that. I think there's a couple of other classes here in Vegas that do that. I don't know them. I don't know of them, but I've heard where, well, we went out to the range and we shot, and did this and did that. But you also have to be able to clear malfunctions, know how to do emergency reloads. If your gun happens to go dry, what to do. If your gun goes click, what to do at that point in time. There's a lot of things to learn. Absolutely. Far more than most people think. And what it is most people don't know what they don't know. And some people believe that they go out and buy a gun and a box of cartridges and they're ready for a gunfight. And that's not true. They're really not.
Yeah. There's a lot to being a responsible gun owner. And I certainly said I've learned a lot. And I know people that have taken your class who are actually very knowledgeable in firearms have learned a lot in your class. So it's a great program you have. So
thank you.
I appreciate you running the program and doing the course. So
I will tell you one of the things that happened to me, and it was probably the greatest compliment I've ever received. I had a captain in the United States Air Force, female, that flew C-130s over in Afghanistan. And she was taking my class, and I also had in that class I don't know his rank, but he went to West Point, and he was in the Army, and he was in artillery. So they were both in my class, and about halfway through the class, I looked down the line through the shooting training portion of the class. I looked down the line, and this woman was upset at something. And I said, Diane, are you okay? And she goes, I'm pissed. I said, what did I do wrong? She goes, oh, I'm not upset with you. I'm mad at the United States Air Force. And I said, how so? And she goes, I'm a combat pilot. I'm valuable to the United States. They spent a lot of money training me, and I'm good at what I do. And they trained me how to use this gun if I had to avoid capture, if I had to put the plane down, or if I crashed. And she goes, and I've learned more in the first half of your class than I was ever taught by the United States Air Force, and I'm pissed at them for giving me a false sense of security. Probably the greatest compliment I've ever received.
That is a great one.
Yes.
That is a great one. Yeah. So
and then I looked over at the West Point graduate, and he goes, ditto.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it is a great class. Well, Ed, I want to thank you for coming on oldguytalkstome.com and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom about concealed carry weapons and what you need to do if you're planning on getting one, and what the whole process is and what things to avoid and not avoid. So thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me. Truly appreciate it, Orest.
All right. So this is Orest, the old guy from oldguytalkstome.com. I just want you to do a few things. First, I want you to subscribe, rate, and review. And also, I want you to sign up my free digital magazine, thestandard.academy/magazine, where there's lots of articles to help you create that kick-ass life that you want for yourself and those that you love. And one of those articles that's in there, that everyone's been on my podcast has been there, is one secret place to touch a woman. And it's not her clitoris, because that's not a secret place. So you need to read the article, find that secret place. So until next time, remember, it's all about creating a kick-ass life for yourself and those that you love. Until next time.
Thank you for joining Dr. Orist and his incredible guest. Like what you heard and learned? Then be sure to do 3 things. 1. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. 2. Share this with someone who may need to hear it. 3. Leave a review and rate this podcast. Opt in at www.thestandard.academy/magazine and get our free digital magazine with savings, articles, and deeper dives into cool controversy. Be the guy who takes action. Without action, you're not going to get the results you want. Thank you again, and make it a great day.